Hey, what's up guys? This is Davis, and I don't know what to say other than it's been a while, but I'm really starting to get back into the groove of YouTube and Twitch just all together, like video content creating. It's something that I've missed for a while now. I don't want to make this introduction too long, especially when shit like this is happening, so I'll just go into this main menu here. But anyways, so yeah, I kind of built this PC a couple years ago for this very purpose, just to, you know, be able to use OBS to record stuff and kind of get back into the swing of things, making things easier for myself, etc. And I just kind of never got around to it because, you know, life got in the way, so to speak, which is nothing new, nothing crazy, but I don't know, it feels good to be back. And I'm ready to give this a second shot in more of a way that, you know, is just me trying to have fun with this. That's something that I kind of always did, even when I started taking things a little more seriously around like 2010, 2011, but I just feel like my expectations were too high for what I was doing, and just based on like some of the people that I had seen do it and, you know, their popularity and such. And so I think it's going to be good for me to just kind of do this with no expectation, just, you know, purely for fun, and just take what comes from it, you know. That's also just part of, you know, maturing as an adult and figuring stuff like this out. So this is just going to be purely experimentational and just enjoyment for me. So with that crazy little intro out of the way, I have another intro, the one that explains this game that I'm playing here and why I'm going to be playing it, and what my, you know, main prerogative and motive is going to be for going through this. So this is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, if you can read. You probably figured that out already. This game is one that I played a lot as a kid, teenager, whatever, and I consider myself to be skilled at it. I recently delved more back into the game through a YouTuber and streamer named the MetalYoshi ProGamer, which I will be linking in the description below. He is one of the best speedrunners that this game has to offer, and above that, he's pretty much just, not, I wouldn't say like subconsciously, but just through watching his videos, I've learned like all of the little things that I never really understood about this game, because while I really did enjoy this game and, you know, obviously would regardless, I always felt like there was a big luck factor involved, and I've started to figure out why I thought that and what all of these little things add up to in, you know, placing your shots and everything. And the reason I'm, you know, going through a video series with this game in particular is because, you know, as I've been re-exploring it, I found how much more depth there is to this game than I previously gave it credit for. As well as I found an insane challenge to do that I never figured out, and only a handful of people, you know, in the world really know about. This community for this game isn't big by any means, but, you know, it was something that I guess was a like developer overlook and just never, I think it was fixed in the PAL and Japan versions of these games, but I'll be explaining that in a bit. So yeah, essentially this game is a lot deeper than I previously thought it was, and a lot more fun because of it. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get into explaining what I'm doing here. So the challenge that I'm going to be going through with this game is kind of based around this and this. So these character matches, to get this out of the way, you see how each character has a star and an unstar form. The way that you unlock these star characters, which essentially increase your driving distance or distance overall dramatically while at the cost of accuracy. And the way you unlock these is each character, when, you know, you have a fresh save or that you just haven't done anything with them, they'll have a little letter in the bottom right hand corner of their character profile, and it'll give you a challenge to take them on in a character match, which is what this is. there are 4 skill levels that the computer will automatically determine depending on which character you're facing. And the way this goes is it goes from the lowest driving character, Koopa Troopa, all the way up to Bowser, which is the highest driving normal character in the game. Petey Piranha exceeds that, but he's an unlockable, as are the rest of these 3, Bowser Jr., Boo, and Shadow Mario. These are your 4 unlocked characters. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how high this difficulty goes to. I think that on the last 2 of these character matches, which are Donkey Kong and Bowser, this can exceed up to Pro. It really just seems like that because they are very difficult, especially if you challenge them on some of the tougher courses in the game. So the reason why I'm explaining all this is because the challenge that I'm going for is to unlock a secret, pretty much end game, you know, crazy challenge that is kind of unaccounted for in the game in a sense, and it is the Ace difficulty, which comes after Pro. These computers are ridiculous. They will never miss their accuracy marks, and their shots will blow you away time and time again to, you know, understate it. They're not like absolutely perfect. They didn't design it like that terribly where, you know, they'll chip in from 150 yards away every time, but they are the most formidable opponents you will probably ever face, unless you play on net play against somebody like the aforementioned MetalYoshi ProGamer guy that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, they're ridiculous, and I want to unlock them. Unfortunately, the process of unlocking them in the NTSC North American version is unbelievably difficult and tedious. So, again, kind of more backlog stuff, but the first thing you start out with in this game, before you can unlock the Star Tournaments, is the regular tournaments. The differences between this and the Star Tournaments is that, Windows error. So there are several differences between the Star version of these tournaments and the regular versions. The first version you may notice right off the bat is this. The back tees is what you play for in the Star Tournaments. That automatically adds like an extra 30 yards average, I would say, to every single hole, which makes the challenge that you have to do even harder. There are multiple other differences that make these tournament versions much harder. The game describes it as, in the Star Tournaments you play against star characters, which, you know, obviously higher driving ranges and stuff, it's gonna equal better overall scores. But there are a multitude of other factors, along with generally tighter score requirements that you need to get. You know, one of the bigger things is the fact that Star Tournaments have something called tournament greens, which are the greens that when you land on them, they make the ball roll farther, you have to account for, and also when you putt, it limits your power range to make your shots essentially less accurate. So that's a pain. Wind is a big factor in these holes, pretty much dramatically increased over regular tournaments, and I think there's an increased chance of rain as well, which will lower your ball's loft, which is, you know, how high or low the ball will go. And sorry, I just need to check something. And also it'll make putting more difficult by increasing the distance that you'll need to set your putt up in order for it to roll, because it'll dramatically slow the ball down. Okay, so yeah, those are the key differences between Star Tournament and regular tournament. The challenge that you have to do to unlock this crazy secret character difficulty is by going through every Star Tournament in the game with every non-star character. So that is all 12 of these guys up here. But the catch is that you have to do it with their unstarred form. So I was previously attempting, I guess, this challenge just to get a better feel for the game before I wanted to record anything. However, I was doing it under the stipulation of having the unstarred characters, but these special clubs that you can transfer in from Mario Golf Toadstool Tour can, you know, they're essentially cheat codes in a sense. I was going through it with these Super POW clubs, again, just try to not kill myself the first few times I was playing through it. This time I will not be using any of these special clubs, even though some of these are debatably not that helpful, like these control clubs, because, you know, you're using unstarred characters and they have much better control than their star counterparts. But I have yet to do this with any of the basic clubs. So this is going to be even a new experience, even though I've gone through quite a few of these already. I'll show what I have done here. I was doing it in the same fashion that I would have done earlier, so as you can see, you can choose between your star and unstarred form for these characters. I've gone through Petey Piranha, I've gone through the driving distances from highest to lowest, which is also how I'll be doing it in this challenge. And I had gotten all the way to just about finishing Wario, which is just about the halfway point. So, I don't know, I feel like I'm comfortable enough with all the Star Tournament mechanics to just go ahead and give this a shot. Again, this is something that I never did as a kid, and, you know, I never really messed around with the Star Tournaments too much, just because, oh, these are stupid, these, you know, stipulations are way too hard. But, you know, I've obviously seen the light, the Mario Golf light, and recognize why these challenges are so fun and the depth that they provide to this game that, you know, I had kind of swept under the rug in recent years. So again, like I said, the way I'm going to be doing this is the highest driving distances to the least. The reason I'm doing it like that is because, especially for these non-star characters, this is pretty much an easy, gradually building up to more difficult challenge doing it this way. There are certain holes in the later courses where I don't know how Koopa Troopa regular without any special clubs is gonna be able to do it. It's gonna be very difficult for sure. Petey Piranha at least gives you a little bit of leeway with, you know, higher distance to give you better, you know, second shots, etc. However, you can see the difference between, if you look at their control stat in particular, the difference between these two characters. It's pretty dramatic. Koopa Troopa has over twice the control, but again, if you can't reach the green, then all that control doesn't really do you that much. One of the bigger oversights, I would say, in this game is this save and continue option. So the way that this works, and, you know, it's clear, you know, it's obvious why they implement it in the game, because some of these courses, and especially with, you know, some of these star courses with unstar characters, for example, could take upwards of a half hour, like, so I completely understand why they implemented the save and continue option, and, you know, it's fine for what it does, but one of the bigger things that it does is just to do a little test of this. So the way this works is regardless of where you are in the hole. So we'll go ahead and start this hole off with a not great shot, right? This is going in the water. It's nothing good to look at. Water hazard. There's a little graphical bug because I'm playing this on the Dolphin emulator instead, but, you know, for the graphical quality and convenience, it's far worth it in my opinion. So we're obviously having a not great hole. We had a water hazard. This little bug, it's not really a bug, it's just, I guess, maybe an oversight, maybe they just didn't give a shit, but essentially you can go back in this continue, and when you continue this, you will not start from where you left off your shot, you will instead start from the beginning of the hole. So what essentially this can do is kind of break the game's difficulty to where if you just have a bad shot to start out, or a few bad shots to start out, you can just save and continue to essentially alleviate your poor playing. So the reason why I bring this up is I'm going to be avoiding this mechanic as much as possible. Now the reason I say as much as possible instead of just flat out not using it is because I honestly don't know how difficult these later challenges are going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be able to complete Bowser Badlands with regular Koopa Troopa, Star Bowser Badlands with regular Koopa Troopa. I just don't know if it's, like, if I can do it. I'm sure it's possible, but, you know, it's not easy to say the least. And, you know, I'll probably set a limit. I'll probably end up setting a limit somewhere down the line of how many times I fail a challenge before I just give up and decide to start using the save and quit, because, you know, this isn't like Castlevania on the NES where, you know, you die and you restart a level and it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to get back. This is, you know, these tournaments could take anywhere from like a half hour to, I don't know, 20 to 45 minutes depending on the character and tournament. So, like, it's gonna be a stretch for me to just say that I will never use that little mechanic, because without it, I don't think I'm willing to. I don't know. We'll see how things go. I think I've explained enough stuff. It's like 15 minutes have gone by. So without further ado, the first character we're going to be starting off with is Petey Piranha, and I'm just going to go straight through all the 6 star tournaments without, you know, I'm not going to go from like character to character while doing each tournament, because I feel like the variation in tournaments and courses is better than the variation in characters while doing the same course, if that makes sense. So yeah, without further ado, let's kick this off. Alright, here we go. Hole 1 of... and you can already look at that 19-mile-an-hour wind and kind of see where this is going. Well, I can't promise that there's going to be a ton to talk about here. You know, just going through, especially these early, you know, this early couple of courses. But, I'm sure I didn't explain everything as well as I would have liked previously anyways. So what I'm doing here is adjusting the camera with this C-stick, and I'm putting it right behind the wind to kind of get a better feel for which direction it's going. This is a very heavy wind, so I'm going to place it pretty far behind. I'm hitting a, the impact mark is that little ball in the bottom right, and you can see I adjust it, and the trajectory of my shot follows accordingly, pretty much. So I'm hitting the ball higher, I'm hitting higher on the ball, so the ball is going to shoot lower, if that makes sense. So it's like trying to use the face cam to the best of its abilities. So yeah, I'm going to be shooting a low shot here to try and avoid the wind as much as possible. Okay, so I had a bad miss hit there, but what I essentially tried to do there was counter the lie detector, which is the little number that Toad is holding. This is plus or minus 1, right under the... Gotta focus on my shot here. Okay, good start. So that plus or minus 1 is, you know, what they call the lie detector. That number, the plus or minus, will depend on where you land. So essentially, if I land in the bunker, I might have a plus or minus 10, whereas if I lie on a flat fairway, I'm looking at a plus or minus 1. I don't think there's any point in which the lie detector is 0, and it looks like we're gonna see that variation, unfortunately. So yeah, we're gonna plus or minus 8 here, and this can dramatically influence where your shot's going, because if I'm shooting a 140-yard shot, of course... Okay, so I had a minus 4. I shouldn't have backspin that regardless, but the point being is that, you know, if you're hitting a 200-yard shot and you get a minus 5 on the lie detector, that's 10 yards that you're losing, which is pretty dramatic and enough to completely kind of ruin your shot, essentially. Okay, so this hole didn't go great. Still trying to get my, you know, brain in the right spot. I haven't recorded like this in so long, so this is all still kind of weird. I'm still trying to explain everything the best to my ability. Okay, so one thing that I really like to do in this game, and I don't know if it's necessarily like a great strategy, not bad, But I like to shoot a lot of low shots and just kind of let the roll do the work for me, because I don't know, I'm not very great at placing my shots super accurate. I'm not very good at determining roll on shots that don't roll a lot, essentially. I don't know. I guess high shots is what I'm speaking of. But yeah, so, you know, -2 through 3. These Star tournaments are kind of different than the regular tournaments in that the cutoffs for them are... They I guess, try to kind of make the overall difficulty of every course equal in the Star Tournament. By that I mean, in the regular tournaments, the cutoffs, I'm not entirely sure, but I think they actually get more strict as you go on, as well as the courses getting obviously much more difficult. But in the Star Tournaments, the requirements actually get slightly... That sucks. The requirements for these courses actually get more lenient the more you go on. So for example, this course's cutoff is -9. I can explain, you know, all of the cutoffs as we go on. But I'm not sure if the character will always, like, the same character will always win. Like, I'm not sure if it'll always be Bowser that gets -9 or Mario that gets -9. I think that the names and stuff might change around. Oh, this is not a good shot. At least we passed the tree. But there are very specific cutoffs that you'll have to get to win the tournaments. The good news is you can tie for first place and still win overall, so that's something really nice that you won't have to worry about. You won't have to worry about getting -10 on this course, for instance. That was not a very well-placed shot. Yeah, this isn't something that I wanted to see. I was getting a lot of pars on Lakitu Valley of all courses, but, you know. Again, I'm still getting back in the swing of, you know, talking consistently while playing through, you know, games, especially in a game like this where your focus on your power and accuracy really needs to be there. And I'll probably, you know, as these keep playing out, I'll probably start focusing more during, you know, when I'm taking my shots, and probably not speaking during those parts nearly as much. A difference between this game and the original Mario Golf actually is that this game runs at 60 frames a second, while Mario Golf on the N64 obviously runs at 30. So what that really means is that you have half the time to, or you have a twice as strict window for hitting your shots, for hitting your marks, which can make things a little more difficult. Nice. That was really sitting on the edge there. I'm not too focused and worried about this course overall because it's Lakitu Valley. It's very forgiving with how you place your shots, even in the Star tournaments, just because there's so much fairway and unless you go OB or out of bounds or get a, you know, tricky water hazard, there's not a lot of spots that you are able to hit the ball that's gonna put you in, like, just a terrible position. Whereas some of the later courses, that is absolutely not the case. You need to be on your marks, and especially, you know, with star characters and characters that drive farther. That's one thing that I admit is, nice. So one thing that I admit is a little bit less entertaining about this kind of run where I'm using all the non-star characters with the basic clubs is that, so we have wind blowing a little bit behind. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. But anyways, because, you know, your accuracy is so much better with these non-star characters, I can understand how that would make the gameplay just a little less entertaining because it's a little less risky. Alright, this chip right here, we have the slope going this way, the wind slightly counteracting it. The wind actually does affect even these tiny chip-in shots. Yeah, just undercompensated a little bit too much for the slope. It's not something that I really ever considered when I used to play this game, is how the wind affects like those approach chip-in shots like that, but it actually does. And that's just something that you should keep in mind. Alright, so we have a strong wind going forward. I don't want to land in that bunker. So the underhit is okay in this situation. Landing under that tree is something that I do not want to do, especially because Petey Piranha hits a high shot, but I think we cleared, yeah, we cleared enough to where it's not going to be a problem. Something to note on that drive I just did is I probably could have reached the same distance that I did with that power shot without, or with just like the complete max drive that I could have done. However, the reason that I used a power shot there is I find it easier to hit my power marks when they're not at the absolute max. The second, so, you know, we'll take this for example, like one step down in power is much easier to hit in my opinion than full power. I don't really know why that is, but it just seems to be the case. So when I'm given an option like that, especially where I need to make a really precise shot, I generally opt to go for a power shot and then just reduce the power on it to try and be as accurate as possible. Okay, this isn't, you know, I missed my accuracy mark, but again, it's Lakitu Valley. I barely avoided that bunker. So I guess, you know, maybe I should explain a couple other facets of just the inner machinations of how this game functions. Your accuracy mark, you know, I think it's pretty clear where the perfect accuracy mark is, right smack dab in the middle where those, jeez, really I missed that, where those yellow bars are at the very bottom of the power meter. Hitting in front of that will actually, you know, if you can visualize like how golf functions and everything, I'm sure it makes more sense to you, but you know, if you've never played golf or just have a hard time visualizing it, hitting in front of that or in front or to the left of that accuracy meter will result in your ball straying right and vice versa. So there are actually better, if you miss-hit the ball, and there's, for example, a hazard to your right, you'd really want to make sure you don't hit the ball early, you don't hit your accuracy early, because then you would hit the ball on the left side and it would stray to the right, where, you know, so the only reason I'm really explaining that is because there are better and worse mishits to do in the game. So that was an example of a rainy hole, and more specifically a rainy putt, where I had to overshoot the ball way harder than you would think to make it here. Alright, so this hole, I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, I would have to hit this accuracy mark or this power mark pretty perfectly to land this, so I'm just going to go up a club and do this. This wind is extremely heavy, and I do need to hit a high shot, I think, because of this tree right here, just to avoid that. So I'm gonna do a shot like this and just kind of hope for the best. I added a backspin there because woods, you know, especially your driver, are gonna have a lot of roll to them, regardless pretty much of where you hit the ball on the marker. The same rules still apply. This is a really tricky putt. I would be very surprised if I made this. Oh, I like this camera. So that camera angle that it gives you when you putt like that either means that you sunk the ball or that you got like astronomically close, like within a foot, which realistically looks like within an inch. But yeah, I mean, the same rules still apply for your hit marker when you hit the ball with a driver. Like if you hit it higher, or, you know, if you shoot a higher shot, it's gonna roll less. If you shoot a lower shot, it's gonna roll more. But regardless, like, especially with your driver, my voice is just going to shit. I have not done this in so long. It's still gonna roll a lot, so you need to compensate for it. Like right here, I'm pretty much forced into this situation unless I want to do this, which I actually do. So the slope is going down to the right here, so I want to hit the slope around like here so that it'll bounce toward the hole, but there is wind to account for, so I actually need to hit it about here to get it to here, and that's kind of like... Ugh, man. That was a really bad shot, just overall, for several reasons. One, I had the +1, which increased my distance by like 2 yards that I didn't want. 2, I overshot, and then 3, I had the bad mishit inaccuracy. However, the accuracy mishits can actually be pretty interesting because, as you can see, when I shot when I missed the accuracy peg by like a couple frames, I guess, because it is, I'm pretty sure it is 1 frame per, I don't know, movement on that power and accuracy meter. So here I'm going to do a curve to get around these trees. Another terrible mishit. It's not playing great right now, but that's fine. Again, it's Lakitu Valley. We should be fine to pass regardless. We just need 1 more. I don't know why I said 1 more, but we just need -1 to reach the cutoff. -1 more. So we need -9, we're at -8, whatever. Okay, so the backspin was good. I don't think super backspin was super necessary there. It would have put me at a more awkward angle for the putt. And that's what a lot of putting comes down to, is not necessarily getting as close to the hole as possible, but getting on a flat slope, getting where you have good control over whatever. So this shot right here is actually really bad because this is my only area to go where I have like a decently short distance to the hole, but the wind is making me think that it's going to instead go in this bunker right here, so I'm actually just going to opt to go around the tree like this and take a longer second shot. So anyway, I never got to finish explaining what I was talking about in regards to the power meter. So when you miss... If you can remember back to that hole where I missed the power meter on my shot going up toward the green, I missed it by 2, and it dramatically impacted the distance of my shot. Now, that's obviously really bad. It was really bad in that situation, but it's actually a way that you can manually adjust your shot, not only for your own mishits, but for the lie detector. So if, for instance, you get a plus big number on the lie detector, you can actually mishit on purpose to lower your shots. Please tell me I make par on this. Cool. To essentially manually fix the lie detector, in a sense. You can also add, as you can see, there's actually a lot to explain here. I did not think I was going to be talking like constantly throughout this, but here we are. But yeah, so I'm kind of just at a loss trying to think about what to speak on next. Spins are another way that you can really, manually control and help to mitigate the lie detector, which is essentially your biggest enemy in this game because it's the one element of RNG that really exists. Like, if you knew how the wind was going to affect your shot every time, you knew exactly where your ball was going to roll depending on the slope, like, that's all just math, but the lie detector is, again, the big RNG component. Which, again, makes this game slightly more interesting, because with all these different components, the main thing main takeaway, I guess. Real quick side note here: this pin is really far up on the green, and the wind's going backwards. So I'm actually gonna hit a low shot and just try and roll up to the green, essentially. But yeah, so with all of these different components, you know, you have the wind, you have the rain, you have the slope, you have different pin locations on every green. So for example, that's another difference between the star tournaments and the regular tournaments, is that, let's see where this little, I think I adjusted that for undercompensation before and it ruined it. But for every green, there's 4 pin locations that the pin could be at. In star tournaments, straight from, you know, Lakitu Valley Course 1, those are all on the table to be options, whereas in regular tournaments, I think on the first 2 or 3 courses, there's only like 2 that can be possible, and for the latter 3 or 4 courses, there's 3, but for star tournaments, it's all straight from the get-go. It's pretty much this game's expert mode. It just lays everything out on the table. I thought I would try a topspin there because, ouch, that sucks. Because I underhit the ball, but I guess I underestimated how much the ball would roll. So here, the game actually lets you putt from the fringe here. It doesn't, I mean, it lets you technically putt anywhere, but it'll actually set you up for a putt every time on the fringe instead. This shot is actually so short that I don't want to really go for a chip, which I ironically kind of feel like is the more accurate solution. But again, you really have to pay attention to the slope. So if we look back, there's a big slope, kind of, not a huge slope, but a decent one going against me where I putt, and that's going to make a big difference because that's going to set the trajectory for the rest of my putt. However, there is a slight slope going the other way, going the opposite direction as we approach the hole, which also makes a big difference because that's when your ball slows down and is more susceptible to sloping. I think the slope that I'm hitting from is a little bit stronger and more prevalent is going to be than this, especially when you have the pin you can afford to overshoot. And the fringe will slow down your ball as well. So I'm going to place a shot about like here. Probably 27, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Hit the power mark, and looks like I underestimated or overestimated the slope that I was hitting from, or underestimated the slope that I was hitting to. But either way, as you can see, again, I don't know if it'll be DK every time that wins Lakitu Valley. I haven't really paid attention to that, but -9 is the cutoff for that course, so successfully cleared that first try. Good stuff. But again, it's the highest dropping character on the most forgiving course. This is only going to get worse from here on out, I can assure you. And again, it's weird. I felt like I've tried to explain so much stuff in this 40 minutes, and have barely got, I wouldn't say barely got, but not entirely gotten everything I wanted to say across. But I guess that's just kind of the, you know, nature of why I'm doing this, is because there is so much to explain and there is so much depth. So, yeah, next time we'll be doing Petey Piranha on Cheap Falls, which is Cheap Star Tournament. They call them different things for each tournament, I think. But regardless, we'll be doing that, and hopefully I'll be able to focus more. Again, a lot of this video I spent just explaining things about the game, and that took my focus away from like my shot making and everything. So I'm going to try and be focusing more on that and commentating from the just kind of the point of view of the player to explain my decisions and all the alternatives that could happen, because that's kind of what I enjoy about this game in general. But one real quick note to leave with is that, as I explained, you know, there's 16 characters here, there's 6 star tournaments, and that essentially means that we have 95 more star tournaments to go before we unlock this Ace difficulty. And I do intend to play some of those CPUs and see if I can win just against one of them with like an equal or greater driving distance, because it's not necessarily an achievement if I beat regular Koopa Troopa with Star Petey Piranha when he just physically can't keep up. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave any comments or feedback you have in the down there, and I'll see you later.